welcome you all in the 41st, this is 41st CME of Shahabad Ophthalmological Society. Actually, this society was started in 1989, but regular CME started from 2019. And this is 14th web event of Shahabad Ophthalmological Society. I welcome today chairperson, Dr. B.N. Gupta, who is a real mentor, guide, and all-time advisor of Bihar Ophthalmological Society. He is National President, Equine. He is Chief Consultant and Medical Director, Navjyoti Nethralaya Dhanbad. He is past President, Jharkhand Ophthalmological Society, Vice President, IZOC, formerly Managing Committee member, AIOS in 2005 and 2005 to 2008, and again in 2014 to 17, 2 terms he has completed. Member ARC East Zone in 2008 to 11. Member Editorial Board AIOS and DOS Times. He was awarded Dr. Allen Intramural Oration in JAWS in 2016. To his credit, there are many presentations in state, journal, national, and international events. He is proud to be the first ophthalmologist couple of Jharkhand and second of United Bihar. I think Dr. Satyajit is among third and fourth ophthalmologist couple. Welcome, sir. I welcome Dr. Pooja Sinha, a reputed medical retina specialist, Dr. S.P. Tiwari, an established VR surgeon of the state, Dr. Abhishek Kumar, he will be just joining, a promising VR surgeon. All three of them are very encouraging and real motivators of our SOS. I welcome the eminent presenter of the day, Dr. Amresh Kumar, a versatile ophthalmic surgeon. In spite of his busy schedule, he spared time to be here with us today to make us wiser. Fortunately, all of them have a long experience in using B-scan as a tool in ophthalmology. Very kindly, they have accepted to be here as panelist and speaker. I welcome all the program coordinators, discussants on this SOS web platform. We are fortunate to have you all with us. Because of your presence, today's session will be more interactive. I also welcome Dr. Satyajit Sinha, who is CSC BOS, and after the talk, we will have question and answer session. Hope after this web event, everybody will be wiser. And this Shahabad Ophthalmological Society is obliged to Ajanta Pharma people for their generous technical support all the time. Welcome everybody. Now over to Dr. Nilesh, moderator of today's session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to moderate this wonderful webinar. I would like to welcome everybody and wish everybody good evening. I would invite, before proceeding, I would like to invite the opening remarks from Dr. B.N. Gupta, sir. Sir, please. Sir, mute. Sir,
you are mute, Dr. Gupta.
Sir, mute, sir.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. This is indeed an honor for me to join this 41st CME of Shahabad Ophthalmic Society. Thanks to Dr. Rumta and my all friends, Dr. Deepak, Dr. Kedia, Dr. Pandey, Satyajit, Satprakash, Pooja, and all colleagues for
पावर कट हुआ है सर का. Good evening, Nagendra sir. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, Dr. Nagendra Prasad ji.
Retina Clinic. We never had an access to B-scan in our MS days. Whenever you used to find anything beyond the cataractous lens or the lens, every time we used to refer the patient to higher center, that's all. So, but over the time, it has become an indispensable tool, and especially B-scan, it's a painless and non-invasive technique. It's a wonderful tool for all of us, and now we cannot think of any clinic even a comprehensive ophthalmic clinic without indirect ophthalmoscopy, B scan, OCT, etc. I remember in 2009 when I had a CME on retina at Dhanbad, and the topic was retina for general ophthalmologists, and this was attended none by Professor Azad, Dr. Lalit Verma, Dr. Partha Vishwas, Saurabh Sinha, and many faculties from our state and Bihar. And I remember the comment of Lalit Verma. He told, "VN, you have put a very good, very correct sentence that every time the patient, the general trend is he refer to higher center. So we must work up the case and have a provisional diagnosis before sending the patient to the retina consultant." So with all this information, I'm sure this CME is going to be a very wonderful, informative, interactive session. Before referring a patient, I have been advising, and I am following the same thing. We must work up and then refer the patient, because before provisional diagnosis is made, it's very difficult for the patients also to counsel why you are referring the patient to a retina consultant. So B scan is and this is a dynamic test. So while doing the test, you achieve the diagnosis. There is and not like X-ray that you scan picture or still picture and then you achieve a diagnosis. So the person performing the test should be expert and very he should interpret. He or she should be able to interpret the condition. So I'm sure today the talk will be very informative, and I look forward to learning a lot from our learned speakers. We have a wonderful panelists, Dr. Pooja, Dr. Satyaprakash Tiwari, Abhishek. All they are known retina experts of our state. So I look forward to a wonderful CME. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It is really a good message and very important message that you gave in your opening remarks, so that we have to work up the patient before referring. On behalf of SOS, I would like to welcome Nagendra sir and Shatanshu sir to our webinar. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Nagendra Prasad, Chairman, ARC, BOS, and we also welcome Dr. Shatanshu Mathur.
And it is
Chairman, Scientific Committee, ECOIN.
Yes. It is my extreme privilege to introduce our eminent panelists for today. Dr. Pooja Sinha ma'am is a senior medical retina expert at ABI Institute, Patna, and a visiting consultant to Tema Eye Care Center, Ghana, West Africa. She had done MBBS and DO from KMC, Mangalore, and her fellowship from Shankar Nethralaya, Chennai, and she has been trained at multiple centers in US and UK. And ma'am is a very renowned speaker, sought after speaker on multiple forums, both nationally and internationally. Welcome, ma'am. Dr. S.P. Tiwari sir is MBBS gold medalist, MS, and a fellow Vitro Retina from Arvind Eye Hospital, Pondicherry, and he has been practicing retina surgeon for last 9 years, currently working in his own setup, the Sri Punj Eye Hospital, Patna, and is a very senior retina surgeon of Bihar. And our third panelist is Dr. Abhishek Kumar sir. He is son of soil, and after doing MBBS from Pune, he did his PG from Hyderabad. And then he went on to pursue a fellowship in Vitro Retina surgery from Arvind Eye Hospital. And then he has served as phaco trainer at Arsan Eye Hospital, Erode. After that, he went again for a second surgical stint at Sydney Eye Hospital, Australia. And he is a recipient of DK Bose Medal and multiple publications in both index national and state journals. He is a reviewer for IGO and joint secretary in BOS. He is now working as a phaco and Vitro Retina surgeon at Lakshmi Nethralaya, Ara. I welcome all the eminent panelists for today's talk, and I would like to invite Dr. Abhishek sir to introduce our speaker for today.
Thank you, Nilesh. Today's speaker is Dr. Amresh Kumar. He is associate professor in Department of Ophthalmology, Narayana Medical College, Sasaram. He was doing a fellowship in glaucoma and comprehensive ophthalmology from Sadguru Netra Chikitsalaya, Chitrakoot. He had done MS ophthalmology from RIMS Ranchi MBBS from Kasturba Medical College, Manipal. He has done over 25,000 SICS surgery and over 10,000 phaco surgery, over 2,000 glaucoma surgery, and over 1,000 oculoplasty cases. He is a member of AIOS, BOSS, and Jharkhand Ophthalmic Society since 2009. Welcome, Dr. Amresh Kumar, sir.
Welcome, sir. Sir, stage is all yours for the presentation.
पीछे से भी आ सकती हो।
Very good evening to S.K. Rungta sir, our chairperson, Dr. B.N. Gupta sir, and the panelists, Tiwari sir, Sinha madam, and Abhishek, Dr. Abhishek. I'll be starting my talk on BA-scan in the role of BA-scan in ophthalmology, and I'll just go through my slides. Meanwhile, please, if you find any mistake, please don't mind, because I'm not a expert in retina. I just I do my workup part and let other retina colleagues to do it. So BA-scan or just a minute, give me just a minute. BA-scan or brightness modulation scan provides two-dimensional images of a series of dots and lines, and it provides the topographic information of shape, location, extension, mobility, and gross estimation of thickness of the tissue. I hope I am audible to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Clear.
Okay. A little bit about history of BA-scan. It was first used in the field of ophthalmology by Mund and Hughes, and Okasla et al. Reported the sound velocities in the various components of the eye. Baum and Greenwood came up with two-dimensional immersion scan, and first commercially available BA-scan was developed by Coleman et al. In 70s. The importance of this instrument and standardization of technique was emphasized by Carl Osonig. Ultrasound in eye can be used for biometry, that is AA scan, which we conventionally all ophthalmologists do, especially the cataract surgeons, for axial length and corneal thickness measurement. And then we have a standardized A scan, which is for the eco-structure assessment, and it is part of the B scan in most of the contemporary machines with cross-vector facility. And then we have diagnostic B scan, that is two-dimensional USG, which has been coupled with the standardized A scan to arrive at a correct diagnosis. And then the third is Doppler ultrasonography, and this is important for in case of vascular lesions with different blood flow rates. We all know the velocity of the sound, and the conventional power ultrasound. Conventional ultrasound is working between the 20 kilohertz to 100 kilohertz spectrum, and the diagnostic ultrasound is around in between 5 to 10 millihertz in case of ophthalmology. And for abdominal ultrasound, we use 1 to 2 millihertz. Millihertz. And then for ophthalmic ultrasound, it is 8 to 10 megahertz. And for this ultrasound biomicroscopy, it is 35 to 80 megahertz. B mode stands, it is a 2D acoustic section, and in this B scan ultrasonography, an oscillating focused sound beam is emitted, which passes through the tissues of the eye and imaging a slice of tissue, the echoes of which are represented as multitude of dots that together form an image on the screen. The stronger the echo, the brighter the dots. So the electric current is passed to the transducer, and transducers emits ultrasound waves which hits the surface of the eyeball. It goes inside the surface of these tissues of the eyeball, and then the sound waves return, and the transducer again senses it and changes it into electrical signals, which the amplifier transmits to the monitor. Then the probe of the BScan, it is quite different from the AScan probe. The AScan probe is like a pencil, but the BScan probe is quite thick with a mark and emits sound beam of frequency of 10 megahertz. The mark on the BScan probe indicates the beam orientation so that the area towards which the mark is directed appears at the top of the echogram on display screen. That means this is the mark, and the wherever this is pointing, which this direction will appear on the top of the screen. And the probe tip is marked as a white line on the far left side of the display, and echoes to the right side of this line represents the ocular structures. Then BScan probe can also be done transpalpabrally or can be put directly on the anesthetized globe after applying eye speculum, but most commonly it is done transpalpabrally. And pictures obtained with BScan probe are two-dimensional as compared to AScan probe. To obtain high-quality BScan pictures, one must ensure that lesions are placed in the center of the scanning beam, and the beam is perpendicular to the interfaces at the area of interest. And the lowest possible decibel gain consistent with the maintenance of adequate intensity should be used to optimize the resolution of the images. So BScan, we use mainly three sections, like that is axial, transverse, and longitudinal sections. So axial sections are the one from which is directed from the corneal surface, and it goes perpendicularly. So this one is your axial section, and then we have transverse section. This is which goes parallel to the limbus, and it scans the area around the optic disc. And then we have longitudinal sections where it starts from the limbus, goes towards the fornix, and we have different. We scan different clock hours depending upon the area of interest. In axial sections, the probe is placed over the anesthetized cornea, and the beam is directed towards the posterior pole. And there is marked attenuation of this sound beam due to the presence of crystalline lens, and so the picture may not be suitable for macular thickness measurement. And to avoid this, we can go either towards the limbus and in the 9 o'clock position in the right eye, or 3 o'clock position in the left eye. The patient fixates in the primary gaze, and probe is placed on the globe and directed axially. And depending upon the clock hour location, axial horizontal, axial vertical, or axial oblique pictures are obtained. These sections demonstrate lesions at the posterior pole and around the optic nerve head. Sorry. Then in transverse section, the mark is kept parallel to the limbus, and probe is shifted from limbus to the fornix and also sideways. And this scan gives lateral extent of the lesion. In longitudinal section, the mark is kept at the right angles to the limbus towards the center of the cornea, and it determines the anteroposterior limit of the lesion, and it is best to determine the attachment of impedance to optic disc. During the procedure of the probe is moved from limbus to fornix in different clock hour meridians, and the meridians picture is seen of diagonally opposite meridian. So if we are having the probe at the 3 o'clock limbus, the area which will be seen is 9 o'clock posterior. Likewise, the 3 o'clock equator, it is 9 o'clock equator. And if it is the 3 o'clock fornix, we are able to see 9 o'clock anterior part of the eyeball. So basically, we have to keep in mind while doing BScan that wherever we are keeping the probe, the area opposite to that will be visible. And probe can be moved anteroposteriorly as well as sideways, and patient is instructed to fix the gaze so that the probe is perpendicular to the area being examined. For macular screening, the 4 basic BScan probe positions has been described that allows perpendicular sound beam exposure, and these are called as horizontal axial, vertical transverse, longitudinal, and vertical macular approaches. In contact type of scanning, there is a dead zone of around 7.5 millimeter adjacent to the probe. That means this is the white mark which lines the probe, and from that around 7.5 millimeter, that is the zone where the lesions are generally missed, and that's why it is called as a dead zone. And if we wish to visualize that area, we need to keep the probe on the opposite side at right angle or use immersion scan technique, that is ultrasound biomicroscope. Then certain new techniques has been advised, had come up, and these are topographic ultrasonography, and this is used to determine the location, shape, and extent of the lesion. A transverse scan is first done to determine the maximal height and the lateral basal dimension of the lesion, and a longitudinal scan is done to determine the anteroposterior topographic feature of the lesion. You can see in this picture, this is a transverse scan, and this shows a membrane which is far away from the retinal surface. But when the longitudinal scan of this was done, it was found that this membrane was attached to the optic disc. That means it is an RD. Then we have the second method is quantitative ultrasonography, and this the reflectivity and sound attenuation are checked, modified, and the height of the spike on A scan is measured along with the internal structures. The homogeneous structures give little variation in the spike of the A scan, and heterogeneous structures give marked variation in the height of this spike. And this A scan probe is calibrated for tissue sensitivity, and sound is directed perpendicular to the lesion. So you can see here we have a choroidal tumor and choroidal melanoma, and this the A scan gives this spike pattern over the tumor. Then we have sound attenuation, that is there is a costing shadowing caused by the calcifications of foreign bodies or bone pieces if present inside the eye. So you can see over here, this is the actual foreign body, and we have acoustic shadowing behind that foreign body. Then there's kinetic ultrasonography is detects the motion of the lesion or the motion within a lesion, that is mobility, vascularity, and convection movements if present, and mobility is assessed by changing the gauge of the patient, asking the patient to change his gauge, and PVDs, that is posterior vitreous detachments, RDs, rectal detachments, choroidal detachments, all exhibit their own distinctive pattern of movement, which I will be further discussing in respective disease. Where to use BA scan? BA scan is quite helpful in assessment of dense cataract, vitreous posterior segment assessment in case of dense cataract, in case of vitreous hemorrhage, in assessing the cause of leukocoria, in vitritis endophthalmitis, in case of painful blind eye. Before penetrating keratoplasty, we have opaque anterior media, anterior segment, and then in case of intraocular tumors, in case of oculoorbital trauma, and postoperative cases if required. In case of dense cataract, we have if dense cataract is associated with marked and rapid decrease in visual acuity, or we have afferent pupillary defect, or we have associated rubeosis, iridasis, myopia, uveitis, trauma, or diabetes, we need to look into the posterior part of the eye that there is any abnormality, and in all those cases we need to do a BA scan and look for presence of retinal detachment or intraocular tumor with calcification, posterior staphyloма, vitreous hemorrhage, asteroid hyalosis, optic nerve head cupping, abnormal growth over any abnormal growth over optic nerve head, or axial length disparity. In case of vitreous hemorrhage, on echoevaluation, we can pick associated with vitreous hemorrhage. There can be retinal tear or retinal detachment, or it can be disciform degeneration. We can have choroidal melanoma or fibrovascular fronts with tractional RDs or subhyaloid hemorrhage. The cause of leukocoria can also be looked upon in BA scan, and we can diagnose retinoblastoma, persistent hyperplastic primary vitreous sports disease, ROP, or any old hemorrhage in case of leukocoria can also be diagnosed with the help of BA scan. In case of vitritis or patients coming with endophthalmitis, it helps in ruling out foreign bodies and rupture of any intraocular cyst if present, or helps in assessing the response to treatment. In the case of painful blind eye, it is indicated to rule out uveal melanoma or old RD with chronic uveitis or intraocular subretinal cysts, lens dislocation, failed RD surgery, or inflamed physical eye. In case of penetrating keratoplasty with opaque anterior segment, we need to do a BA scan, to determine the status of the posterior segment. And then in cases of, even in cases, patients with clear media, if on indirect ophthalmoscopy we suspect lesions which are suggestive of intraocular tumors like choroidal melanoma, hemangioma, metastatic carcinoma, osteomyelitis, then we need to do B scan. Then orbital screening should also be performed for abnormal choroidal folds or posterior scleritis if noted. In case of oculoorbital trauma, it is imperative to look for sclerochoroidal rupture with retinal detachment, intraocular or orbital foreign body, lens displacement, optic nerve avulsion, and orbital hemorrhage. In post-operative cases, B scan is required to rule out endophthalmitis or differentiate between endophthalmitis and toxic anterior segment syndrome, or presence of lens fragment or intraocular lens displacement into the vitreous cavity, or choroidal detachment, hemorrhage, or status of retina post-RD surgery. We now come up to the descriptions of various intraocular conditions, and the first conditions which we commonly experience is vitreous floaters. Many patients come with us with complaints of something moving in front of the eye, and most commonly they are vitreous floaters. They appear as one or more echo dots of less brightness in the mid posterior vitreous cavity, and which shows mobility with after movement display on D scan. And they may be associated with enlarged globe size. And on A scan, these echo dots have extremely low to medium reflectivity, that is 2 to 20% of the reflectivity. And to appreciate them better, we need to increase the gain by almost 56 decibel. So you can see over here in the photographs, these are the small opacities in the vitreous cavity, which patients complain as floaters. The vitreous hemorrhage appears as multiple fine echo opacities dusting the vitreous body, and they do not extend beyond the posterior vitreous border. In older hemorrhages, the echo dots get denser and the reflectivity increases by up to 60% on A scan. And PVDs, if present, can get stained, and the reflectivity on the PVD increases after vitreous hemorrhage. In resolving vitreous hemorrhage, in comparison with older scan, echo dots on B scan show decrease in brightness and number. In case of subhyaloid hemorrhage, it is situated typically at the posterior pole of the anterior surface of the retina, between the anterior surface of the retina and posterior vitreous space, and it may be fluid in nature or may get organized, and this lifting of this organized vitreous hemorrhage during vitrectomy can produce iatrogenic retinal breaks and retinal detachment. So we need to rule out subhyaloid hemorrhage before going for any vitrectomy. And so this is your subhyaloid hemorrhage, which is in front of the retina. Any old organized vitreous hemorrhage can also result in vitreous membrane formation, which we make as echogenic lines on, which is seen as echogenic lines on B scan, and it mimics an retinal detachment. And to rule out this, differentiate between retinal detachment and vitreous membranes, we need to do check the attachment of this membrane on the optic nerve head, or do quantitative echocardiography. That is, we have to look at the decibel with which the retina is seen and the vitreous membrane is seen. The retina is better seen at the 16 to 15 decibel, and for vitreous membrane to see, we need to increase the gain to more than 20 decibel. Then, in cases of endophthalmitis, inflammatory cells are seen as dot-like opacities on B scan. They could be multiple, they could be scattered and diffusely, or maybe localized to the anterior mid or the posterior 1/3 of the vitreous cavity, depending upon the etiology. This is the photograph showing the endophthalmitis. And on A scan, this dot-like opacity is so low to medium reflectivity, that is 10 to 60% of the height on the spike. And it is not possible to differentiate vitritis from vitreous hemorrhage in still pictures, but we can always compare with the clinical findings, and we can always do repeat the B scan and check it again. The inflammatory cells organize very rapidly to form vitreous membranes, and therefore frequent B scan examinations should be performed. Then in cases of asteroid hyalosis, it is characterized by presence of calcium crystals embedded in amorphous matrix on B scan, and it appears as multiple densely packed, homogeneously distributed eco-dense dots of medium to high reflectivity, and the height is around 50 to 100%. Then they are usually localized to the core of the vitreous body, and we may find clear retrovitreal or pre-retinal space in between the opacities and the lining for the retinochoroidal complex. So, in case of posterior vitreous detachment, it is seen as echogenic membrane concentric to the globe in front of the retinochoroidal scleral complex with clear subvitreal space. And it may be small or interrupted or peripheral or continuous and total. And if lined with red RBCs, its ecodensity increases as discussed earlier. And on A scan, the reflectivity of this membrane is low. And so if the PVD is thin, the reflectivity will be low. And if the PVD is thick and lined with RBCs, the reflectivity increases. PVD usually does not show attachment to the optic nerve head. And this is what we have to look to differentiate it from the retinal detachments. In retinal detachment means separation of neurosensory retina from the pigmentary retina, and it could be total, subtotal, localized, or peripheral, or fresh and old, with proliferative vitreoretinopathy changes. On B scan, it appears as echogenic dense membrane, biconvex or biconcave, with 100% attachment at the optic nerve head. And this is a quite important finding, which we need to look at in case of B scan. And there is 90 to 100% reflectivity on A scan. And you can see over here, the B scan, this is a retinal detachment, and the retina is attached at the level of the optic nerve head. An attachment of optic nerve head is not seen in case of localized peripheral retinal detachment, where membrane is visible in only single quadrants. In uncomplicated cases, can be a clear space between the detached retina and the ocular coat spike, indicating transudative nature of the subretinal fluid. Then fine echodots may also be seen in the subretinal space, indicating presence of hemorrhage or debris. In PVA proliferative vitreoretinopathy cases, vitreous body shows debris dots or membrane formation depending upon its grade, and cystic degeneration may be present in case of old RDs. And after movement is present is suggestive of fresh retinal detachment. In rhegmatogenous RDs, retinal tears, especially operculated tears or giant tears, and even the trickle of vitreous hemorrhage from the break into the vitreous cavity can be picked up. In tractional RD, fibrovascular front within the vitreous cavity or along the vitreous face may be seen, and this front, when it exerts tractional force on the retina, produces tent-like elevation from the retina as an echogenic membrane, which may be localized or extensive enough to become total. And tractional RD does not show after movement, and vitreous cavity may show evidences suggestive of old hemorrhages. And on A scan, this thick membrane produces 100% reflectivity. At times, thick vitreous may be difficult to differentiate from RD, as it may have an attachment to the optic nerve head, and so quantitative echography may be required to differentiate between the two. So you can see in the photographs, there is tent-like adhesions over here, tent-like point adherence, and then you can see this is a tabletop broad adherence of the tractional RD. And you can see here hammock appearance or multiple tents like appearance of the tractional RD. To differentiate between rhegmatogenous, tractional, and exudative RD, rhegmatogenous RD is generally convex, has convex elevation and undulating folds, and proliferative vitreoretinopathy that is not seen over there. Then in case of tractional RD, we have concave elevation, and fibrous tractional bands are also seen. In exudative retinopathy, exudative retinal detachment, we have convex elevation with shifting fluid changes, which and configuration of this elevation changes with change of posture. Then scleral explants can also be picked up. Scleral explants are generally used in rhegmatogenous RD surgeries, where buccal or sponge is applied to indent the globe, On B scan, they appear as echogenic spots with lobe indentation towards the vitreous body and equiescent spot behind the explant. And the explant shows higher reflectivity on A scan. Silicon buccal explants are less echodense in comparison to the sponge explants. You can see over here, this is the silicon buccal, and here this is a sponge explant. And I have one more photograph where shows the scleral erosion occurring after buckling surgery. Then vitreous expanders like silicon oil or perfluorocarbons can also be seen in operated RD cases. Emulsified silicon oil produces marked sound attenuation, hindering the visualization of posterior segment, and it also results in larger vitreous cavity, which is relatively echo-free. And perfluorocarbons, on the other hand, show multiple highly reflective liquid bubbles in the posterior vitreous. So in the first photograph, you can see there is marked attenuation of the retinochoroidal scleral coat, and the vitreous cavity appears larger. So this is how a silicon oil filled vitreous looks like. And we have higher reflective liquid bubbles in case of perfluorocarbons. Then in case of choroidal detachment, it is usually in the periphery, and it may be localized or total. And it is seen as a dome-shaped elevation with clear subchoroidal space on B scan. And it has 90 to 100% spike on A scan, and then it is double peak tall spike is seen in case of choroidal detachment. And there is none or very little after movement on kinetic ecography. So you can see over here, this is a localized dome-shaped elevation. And you can see over here, this is multiple choroid, so this is multiple dome-shaped elevation with in more quadrants, and we have double peak tall spiking on A scan. In case of impending expulsive hemorrhage or traumatic choroidal detachment, subchoroidal space shows hemorrhages as multiple dot-like opacities on B scan, and if there are two or more domes which meet in the vitreous cavity, it is called as kissing choroidals. And 360-degree detachment shows pathognomic scallop appearance in the eye. So this is your 360-degree detachment showing scallop appearance. We have your kissing choroidals. To differentiate between choroidal detachment, retinal detachment, and PVD, we have dome-shaped elevation in case of choroidal detachment. It is linear in case of RD, and then we have location is periphery in the periphery or pre-equator region in the choroidal detachment. It could be variable in case of RD and PVDs. Attachment to ONS is not present in choroidal detachment. It is present in retinal detachment. And then kissing choroidals or vertex band limitation could be there. Then folds on breaks and PVR changes can also be picked in RD cases. Spike height on A scan is 90 to 100% in case of choroidal detachment, 80 to 100% in RD, and 40 to 90% in PVDs. Mobility is minimal in case of choroidal detachment, moderate in retinal detachment, and marked in case of PVDs. After movement is not seen in case of choroidal movement, minimal in RD, and marked in case of PVDs. Then we can also, sometimes we can also pick retinal tears. So you can see over here, there is a retinal tear, and this is a retinal tear with free superior end, which is moving in the vitreous. Then vitreous can become attached to this tear, and then we can. This is an example of retinoschisis, which is seen as moderately elevated thin membrane step echo. Then we have, in case of intraocular tumors, which commonly require B scan evaluation, are retinoblastoma, choroidal melanoma, hemangioma, metastasis, dictyoma, and osteoma. B scan helps in measurement of tumor dimensions, differentiation, extracellular extension, size, and assessing tumor growth or regression. It helps in distinguishing solid from cystic lesions. So in retinoblastoma is seen as a solid tumor arising from the retinal layer, obliterating the vitreous cavity. Calcification with the tumor mass is typical, and there is shadowing effect behind the lesion due to the presence of calcification, and concomitant RD can be sometimes present. On AS scan, spikes with moderate internal reflectivity may be seen, but in presence of necrosis and calcification, highly reflective or irregular spikes are observed. Sound attenuation is moderate to high, and globe is usually normal in size, except in case of glaucomatous stage, where it becomes enlarged. You can see over here, this is a endophytic growth of, exophytic growth of retinoblastoma coming into the vitreous cavity. Osteoma is, looks like this, and is calcification, and this is shadowing behind the lesion. Then, then other causes of leukocoria, we have to rule out persistent hyperplastic primary vitreous. The globe size may be smaller, and the vitreous cavity shows persistence of the primary vascular system, seen as ecomembranous tract from the optic nerve head to the back of the lens. So you can see over this. This is the persistent primary vitreous over here, and this one. Then in case of ROP, it is characterized by multiple vitreous membranes and RD in the periphery, and the size of the globe may be smaller in these cases. So this is a vitreous membrane seen in case of ROP. Then we have in Coats disease, there is unilateral involvement and presence of exudative RD with turbid subretinal fluid or cholesterol crystals in the subretinal space can be seen. So this is how a B scan in Coats disease looks like. Then in case of choroidal tumor, choroidal melanoma, it appears as a small dome-shaped localized solid lesion elevated from the ocular cords with low to medium reflective A scan spike. The height is around 40 to 60%, and we can have collar stud pattern or mushroom appearance, and regular internal structure and acoustic shadowing can occur, and there can be internal vascularity. Tuberculoma has a similar appearance on B scan. In case of ruptured globe with low intraocular pressure, there may be scleral dehiscence with vitreous hemorrhage, vitreous or uveal tissue prolapse, and vitreous hemorrhage with RD. It usually occurs at the site of the extraocular muscles insertion and may be concentric to the limbus. In cases of small scleral rupture, a trickle of hemorrhage into the vitreous cavity is noticed on B scan. So this is how a ruptured globe looks like. We can have hemophthalmos. This is hyphema along with vitreous hemorrhage and choroidal hemorrhage, and in cases of scleral rupture with orbital hemorrhage. And this combination is called as hemophthalmos. Black eye can also coexist. Then one more. Then we have posteriorly dislocated crystalline lens into the vitreous cavity. This lens is seen as a biconvex body, which is mobile or fixed. And lens fragments in vitreous generally cause vitritis. And intraocular lens in vitreous, so you can see over here, this is the lens in vitreous space. And then intraocular lens in vitreous cavity appears like a foreign body with high reflectivity and shadowing effect behind it. You can see over here, this is an intraocular lens lying in the vitreous cavity. In case of phthisis bulbi, the globe is generally small, soft, and D-shaped, and there is thickened retinochoroidal complex. And then intraocular calcification or bone formation may occur in choroidal layer in long-standing cases. And these are all better episode. Intraocular foreign body are seen as eco-dense spots with 100% reflectivity on A scan spike, irrespective of the nature of the foreign body. And ultrasonography enables its exact sizing and localization. Shadowing effect can be seen, is usually seen, and decreasing the gain of the machine by 10 decibel helps in from dense blood clot and lens fragments. Shadowing is generally not seen with lens fragments. And if the foreign body is less than 0.2 millimeter in size, it will not be picked by CT scan, or if it is obscured by hemorrhages. Then the spherical foreign bodies generally have two surfaces, anterior and posterior surface, and there can be, and in between those two surfaces, there can be multiple internal diversions. Then optic nerve can also be evaluated with the help of B scan. In general, only topography and relations to structures and optic disc anomalies are generally noted. There is definite sign seen because of the subarachnoid space surrounding the optic nerve appears as equilucent, concentric, or circle around the nerve. You can see over here the cupped disc is seen. Macular edema can also be seen, but I think macular edema is better appreciated with OCT and all. Then retinal coloboma can also be appreciated as a defect in the retinochoroidal layer on B scan, and optic disc coloboma, if associated, can also be seen where there is absence of optic nerve head. So this is a photograph which is showing coloboma affecting retinochoroidal layer and optic disc. In posterior staphylomas, it's a common finding in case observed in high myopes. There is sudden bowing backward of the globe with thinning of retinochoroidal layer, and it is usually seen at the posterior pole, and the axial length of the globe is increased, indicating axial myopia, and sometimes we can see presence of vitreous debris. In postoperative endophthalmitis, can be differentiated from toxic anterior segment syndrome. In TAS, the inflammation is generally visible only in the anterior segment, whereas in case of endophthalmitis, there is severe vitritis and exudation in the vitreous cavity. B scan is useful in evaluating the response to intravitreal injection in case of endophthalmitis. In case of cysticercosis, this can occur in any ocular tissue, but is more common in vitreous cavity. And B scan reveals a well-defined cystic lesion with clear contents and a hyperechoic area suggestive of Solex. So you can see over in the first photograph, this is a cystic lesion with a Solex inside, and after treatment, you can see over here that the size of the lesion has decreased, and in the third picture, it is almost disappeared. So serial echography helps in follow-up of the patient, and resolution is indicated by disappearance of the Solex. In posterior scleritis, we get a T sign, and that is collection of the fluid in the subretinal space. So the T sign is formed by the fluid in the subretinal space and the optic nerve. So this is how a T sign is formed. Sometimes we may get inflammatory nodule in the retinochoroidal area. Then we can sometimes, these are all about disease. Sometimes we can get reverbation artifacts if there is insufficient coupling fluid, and or there is entrapment of air between the probe and the eye, and there is it is seen as a bright echoes which represents as multiple signals, and we have to remove the probe and put adequate coupling fluid, ensure that there is no air entrapped in between. So that was all. Thank you for your patient hearing. The experts can can give their comments, and over to you, Nilesh.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. This was really a very comprehensive talk. It's very difficult to cover all the aspects of B scan in such a short time. So thank you, sir, for that. Before opening question answer, I would like to invite our panelist, Dr. Pooja ma'am, for her comments.
Very good evening to everyone. I must really congratulate you, Dr. Amresh, for this wonderful, exhaustive, the slides that you had. You covered almost all aspects, except I think a brief touch on orbital ultrasound is also sometimes relevant, especially in orbital tumors or with thyroid ophthalmopathy. Sometimes we have to do imaging of the muscles and the thickness estimation. So that I think can be touched upon. And the most important thing I think in ultrasound is also reporting. Like we were taught when we were doing our fellowship, that reporting is extremely important. You have to start from for the benefit of the PGs who are here, you have to start from the posterior capsule of the lens, then talk about the vitreous cavity, then talk about the vitreous adhesions, whether it is a complete PVD, whether it is an incomplete PVD, and that also has to be documented with proper, steps. For example, if you're talking of PVD, you have to mention whether it's attached to the optic nerve head or not, whether it's complete, incomplete, what kind of an after movement does it have. So always PVD will have a very good after movement. And when we are talking of RD, you have to say that it is attached to the optic nerve head, it is high reflective, the limited after movements. So all these things have to be documented properly when we are doing reporting of ultrasound. And another thing I wanted to say is that when we are talking of trauma cases, it is very important for the surgeon to know whether the posterior capsule of the lens is intact or not. So that has to be mentioned. You have to mention if there is a posterior globe perforation or not, apart from other things inside the vitreous cavity. One more thing which I feel I have seen with experiences, there are 2-3 places where we don't need to do the ultrasound. For example, in simple rheumatogenic RD cases, I see that the surgeon is referring for ultrasound. When you can see the the retina, you don't need to do an ultrasound, except when you have to document shifting fluid on exudative RD. That is when the ultrasound is really required. Then in fresh vitreous hemorrhage cases, sometimes you don't pick up vitreous echoes. So one more thing which one slide also could have been about the gain. What is gain, and what kind of echoes are picked up in higher gain and lower gain. So these are some points. And one more thing, in silicone oil filled eyes, you will not get a good ultrasound. So if it's a silicone oil filled eye, the interfaces are so many that you cannot make out if the retina is actually attached or not. So these are some indications which I felt I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And so I would like to invite SP Tiwari sir for his comment.
Thank you, Nilesh. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Very clear.
Yeah, okay. I must congratulate Amresh sir for having such an elaborate presentation on ultrasound business. He covered almost every aspect of ultrasound, and I just could recollect my fellowship days when we were used to taught like that and work upon every aspect and look at the everything what we can get maximum information from USGB scan. Actually USGB scan is one of the most informative investigation which is very handy, and it can be easily mastered by any anterior segment colleague or posterior segment colleague. And whenever you cannot see retina, is there any media opacity due to corneal opacity, or there is a dense cataract or vitreous hemorrhage, you can't see the posterior segment, you must do an ultrasound at least to see what is the status of the retina. Sometimes what happens, even as a retina surgeon, suppose we have seen vitreous hemorrhage, sudden loss of vision, and if we have seen vitreous hemorrhage, dense vitreous hemorrhage, and if we do not do ultrasound, sometimes underlying retinal detachment can be missed. And once the vitreous hemorrhage resolves, sometimes the patient lands up with closed funnel RD or bad PVR. So the prognosis becomes poor. So suppose if you have dense vitreous hemorrhage, and even if you are thinking that, okay, I'm busy and cannot do the ultrasound, no, we must stop for a second and we should advise ultrasound in such cases. And sometimes very large break, even without retinal detachment, can be picked up on ultrasound with vitreous hemorrhage. And in such cases, early surgery, or if we can intervene early, the results becomes very good. So ultrasound definitely gives very good information. Sometimes in mature cataract, we do cataract surgery, excellent surgery, IOL in the back, but sometimes we find some significant posterior pathology like retinal detachment or something which could have been easily picked up by ultrasound. So doing ultrasound is a good thing. The cost of machine is also not that much. So I think experiencing and doing some ultrasound by own and then having this machine is very good tool actually for all colleagues, including anterior and posterior, and we can save many cases on time, detect and save them on time. So thank you so much, sir, for refreshing all our ultrasound skills, and we are really enjoyed your talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. And before I open the question and answer session, I'll be a little selfish. I'll ask my 2 questions first to both the panelists. The thing is, whenever somebody tries to buy a machine, the first confusion is which probe to buy. They tell 7.5, 10, 12, 15, now 20 is coming. So that confuses every comprehensive ophthalmologist. They confuse. So, sir, which probe, ma'am, which probe to buy first? That is there any difference between different probes?
I think the 10 megahertz probe is good enough.
Again.
So and normally with all the standardized machines that we are buying,
Yeah.
the probe is pretty much the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah, 10 is most widely used. So that is best for anybody who wants to buy that.
Okay, sir. And so the next question, ma'am actually briefly touched upon which cases not to do B scan. One such is perforated, when perforated globe comes, that penetrating injury that comes. So many people say you can do a standoff technique or sandbagging with a water-filled glove and then do the B scan. So when should we do the B scan on a trauma patient and when we should not do?
This is a very valid point you have mentioned. I think, especially with trauma, a very gentle B scan is what is required. And sometimes you can even defer the ultrasound by a day, do the primary repair, make the globe intact, and then next day when the patient comes for follow-up, then you do the gentle B scan. And then you assess the internal structures. So there should not be any hurry in these kind of cases.
So what to do, ma'am? To do a standoff with a blob of gel, or shall we do with a water-filled glove? Which is preferred technique?
I do more or less a standoff kind of a technique, a gentle scan with lot of gel. So, and that gives a good enough view, you know.
Sir. Tiwari, sir?
Yes. Actually, I generally avoid if there is anterior open globe, like if there is cornea is involved and if it is open up, I generally prefer to do a repair and then would do USGB scan on next day. If it is hidden some occult rupture, you suspect posterior globe rupture and it is covered by conjunctiva and there is no communication, then generally I do a gentle B scan. Otherwise, I prefer to do a first repair and then do an ultrasound. But definitely, if you think that it is necessary to see if you suspect some large retained intraocular foreign body which can be retrieved during repair or for any sort of reason, if you want to do, you can do, but you must be very careful. Like your probe should be properly cleaned and spliced. Like you just wipe it thoroughly with spirit at least, and then do a scan on closed lead and put lot of jelly and do not press over the globe. You just hold that probe over the jelly and it will give quite a lot of information. So that is the best technique, but best is that to do not do extensive scan, do not press, otherwise the globe content may further be damaged. And then you do a proper USG scan once you do a repair. So that is should be followed.
Thank you, sir. So I will open the floor for questions. Inviting any questions.
Nilesh, actually,
sorry, yes, sir.
So far as the open globe injury is concerned, I definitely
Yes,
I agree with Pooja and Satyaprakash both, because in my practice I have been doing, although it is said that we shouldn't do it, but with lot of gel, closed lid and very gentle touch, you can have a lot of information. So I routinely do it. And of course, after repairing and all, you just do an elaborate ultrasound, whatever you feel like. But on the day of examination, the first day, I routinely do it very gentle, just touch with lot of gel.
because
Thank you.
in theoretical books, it is written that you can do with water-filled glove, but I couldn't
Yes.
identify any structure once the glove comes, because so much of reflection is coming. So that's why I wanted to ask if standoff, everybody is
Yes.
practicing
Yes.
standoff.
No, actually, on water-filled gloves, when you do your scan, your focus of a scan shifts entirely, because see, the penetration of scan is almost 24 to 25 mm on our machine. You can increase or decrease also. In lot of machine, there is a function that penetration of scan you can increase or decrease a bit, not much, but a bit. In orbit mode, you can go further posterior if orbit mode is available in the scan machine. So once you do an scan with a suppose water-filled gloves, your scan focus of a scan from retina and optic nerve, it shifts to anterior segment, lens complex or anterior vitreous phase. Suppose if you want to actually see the rupture of the posterior lens capsule, or if you suspect something in the angle or somewhere some foreign body or some cyst like neurocysticercosis, then water-filled gloves is quite informative, and you have to make up your mind that, okay, I'm going to scan relatively the interior part of the globe and I'm not going to see the retina with this scan. So water-filled gloves is altogether a different kind of scanning mode, and it does give some information in many of the interior scans, but we cannot scan retina through water-filled gloves, because if you fill water, it's almost around 10 to 12 mm of distance. It increases the distance of a scan from 10 to 12 mm. So your penetration of USG focus shifts anteriorly to anterior vitreous space, lens complex, iris, and angle of the anterior chamber. So that is the case.
Satanshu sir wanted to make some points, sir.
Can I say something?
The private practitioner,
Yes,
hello,
sir.
Raghunath. As far as the private practitioner are concerned, it is clearly we will say we should not do B scan on a perforating injury. We can tell the patient we are going to repair it, and tomorrow next day we will do your ultrasound. If any pathology is there, we will treat accordingly. It is best to avoid increasing the perforation by doing B scan as far as anterior segment surgeon is concerned. Second thing, for B scan, what I found is more important for anterior segment surgeons rather than posterior segment surgeons, because they can see, even with the dense media, they can see that retina very well in comparison to us. So B scan is very important for all anterior segment surgeons. It will save you from many disasters. Like I can say you, many times we have diagnosed before surgery detachment, dense vitreous hemorrhage. We could have caused problem to us later on. Patient was asking why you did not told us before. So it is mandatory. We have made mandatory for our scattered surgery, B scan and OCT, and that has saved us many times. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So Nagendra sir.
Can I
Yes,
say
sir.
something?
Yes, please, sir. Please, sir.
Actually, as Dr. Satanshu Mathur has enumerated very well, that not go for the B scan on a globe, ruptured globe. Better to you go for, if you want to document anything, go for X-ray. X-ray I usually do beforehand, going for the, and after repair, you can always go for the ultrasonography. That is the classical teaching we had. Now I don't know what they are right now. What is the current indication?
Yeah.
Or the B scan in a ruptured globe. That's all I wanted to
Getting
add.
X-ray, sir. It now it has become difficult because all the old techniques, sir, nobody knows to do an orbit X-ray right now, because everybody goes for a CT. So
Actually, you can pick up some intraocular foreign body if you like that kind of thing. So
yes,
it
sir.
saves lots of embarrassment. Better always go for better to do B scan definitely.
Yes.
But in a rupture globe, I am a little skeptical about doing ultrasound.
In open globe, in Arvind also, we had a protocol that if there is open globe injury, X-ray is a must. You must do at least X-ray, and then only you can do a repair. And whatever you want to do, CT or MRI or USG, you can do it later on. But minimum at least X-ray is a must. And Arvind had all the branches, they had their own X-ray machine. So it was not an issue. You do not need to send the patient outside for X-ray scanning. So they used to do X-ray right and left, and it was almost mandatory to do an X-ray for all the patients of open globe injury.
And sir, for cataract surgery, like Satanshu has said, OCT or B scan. So it has to be done like everybody does that. So that like everybody's opinion, I'm asking. B scan before surgery in cases where we don't see fundus.
So the simple logic is that if the cataract is so dense, or if it is a total cataract and you can't visualize the retina, then a B scan ultrasonography is very important. But if the retina can be visualized and you can faintly see the disc and the remaining part of the retina, I think ultrasound can be avoided. And sometimes now with the newer OCT machines that we have, still the contour of the retina can be picked up well. But a simple indirect ophthalmoscopy and its importance should not be, it should be kept in mind. So before we do any diagnostic tool, an indirect ophthalmoscopy is
Dr. Pooja, there is a one correction. We are doing B scan not for us. We are doing B scan for the patient. If there is a floater, we show the patient relative in the advance that there is a opacity in the vitreous. That is not visible now, but that will be visible after the surgery. So patient is more, these are the for the unhappy patient post-surgery. So they always complain floaters. So we tell them in advance there is an opacity there, they will see it later on. So this is helpful, number one. Number two, we are doing free of cost. We are not charging patient any charge for this. And so patient is not minding, and we are getting some information about, especially the OCT, especially the diabetic patient. We should do OCT. If we have OCT, we should do in each and every case. You should not charge for it.
Once in over enthusiasm, sir, I like what you said. To show the floater or something. So I made a mistake to comment like retina was on a dense cataract patient. So I told him like your retina is fine and you are going to get a good vision. It was in my PG, so it went on to my consultant head, but it was my wrong counseling, and the patient turned out to have a dense CRA patch at the macula. The retina was on. I counseled, you are going to get a good vision, and then that patient ate head of my consultant.
No, never tell this. In mature cataract, what is our protocol? We tell them your retina is okay, 50% chances are there you will get vision, but we cannot shoot full retina because we can't see in the OCT and we can't see the fundus. We never promise them just on the B scan that they will get in mature cataract.
Never make tall claim. You always be say the prognosis should be guarded.
And never.
I usually
in mature cataract never promise 100%. That you will get the vision, because there may be so many things behind which you are not visible even on this.
I usually tell the patient after ultrasonography that your structure is good, but function is I don't know. The function will always come to know after the surgery. So this is the punchline for me. So that is good. Don't promise on ultrasonography that you have good retina, not attached retina, but you don't know whether this fall scar is there, hole is there or not. So you don't know. So functional part is very, very important. So structurally it is good, but function करेगा कि नहीं करेगा ये operation के बाद पता है.
But Abhishek, one thing is very clear: all the anterior segment surgeons should have B scan. This is more important than the posterior segment.
And sir, as ma'am said about the orbital B scan also, so many patients like they come with a slight proptosis, lower lid retraction. So shall we do a B scan on all those patients, and what is the protocol, ma'am?
Yes, I think orbital B scan is something which is very underused, I would say. And if it is done well and you have a good knowledge of it, I think you can pick up a lot of things. So definitely a know-how of orbital ultrasound is very important, because it will save us from a lot of things, because the muscle thickness and lot of inflammation in the orbit, everything has to be, documented. And bringing me to that, if you have a trauma patient, orbital ultrasound also has to be done in the orbital mode. That also has to be emphasized. So always do it in the vitreous mode, and then you switch over to the orbital mode and also document your orbital mode findings.
And ma'am, what will be the probe position like to see for specific muscles?
That you can document with the longitudinal scans also. It gives a good view, because that scans from the center to the cornices. So that will give a very good view.
Thank you. Thank you.
One thing I would like to add, that if you are doing yourself ultrasonography, that is good enough. You have a proper orientation of the structure, where you have put the probe and which structure you are seeing. But if it is reporting from the outside, always ask those ultrasound fellow to put superior temporal, which side is always write down on the scan, which superior, which one temporal is which one, so you can have a proper orientation if you are not doing yourself B scan.
And sir, private practitioners keeping the B scan, there is a space crunch. So most of the people, they end up doing it in sitting position. So from the comprehensive ophthalmologist point of view. Sir, Gupta sir, Mathur sir, Nagendra sir. Sir, shall we do it in sitting position only, or do we need to invest in a recliner or something?
No,
No,
I usually do in recline position. I never do in the sitting.
we are doing in a sitting position. We can ask the Dr. Puja and Dr. Tiwari, is there any difference? Because we are doing the
Sir,
sitting position.
in Shankar Netralaya, it was a must. We had to make the patient lie down. We never
Yeah.
did it in.
Any reason? Any
So
reason?
that is how we were taught.
You can orient the probe better way if a patient lie down. That is why you cannot.
But we really wanted to know what is the difference if we do in sitting position and in lying down position.
Dr. Tiwari, can you specify?
If the surgeon himself is doing.
Sir, definitely lying down position is a better position, but we do in sitting position also, and it is good. And sometimes it is mandatory to do in sitting position. Like suppose the half of the cavity is air filled, or you have filled with gas and you wanted to see the inferior part of retina. You cannot do in lying down position. You have to do it in sitting position. But obviously, the proper position of doing USG is lying down position. But in my clinic, for all practical purposes, we are doing in sitting position. And my that technician, this ophthalmic assistant, they are doing ultrasound. They are sending the report, and we are just seeing. Whenever we have some other, like suppose it is a total cataract, so anyone can just put a probe in all quadrant and they can see whether it is attached or detached. If we want to see anything particular, then one of the consultant goes there and does by their own and find out the whatever they want to see, or the dynamic scan or whatever. But mostly it is a very easy technique to learn, and all my optometrists who works with me, they are trained in doing ultrasound B scan, and they are well trained. And apart from doing refraction, they do all OCT, FFA also. I never go and do FFA. So all ICG, FFA, autofluorescence, OCT, ultrasound, everything is being done by them, and they do reasonably well. No issues with that.
Yes, it's all how you train your optometrist. In my setup also, most of the cases I do it in sitting position. But of course, when the patient is a small child or say not cooperating very well, then in those cases,
then we have to make them lie down.
Then you have no option.
Dr. Tiwari, we see the patients are more cooperative when they are in the sitting position.
Yes, because the time you just ask the patient to lie down, he will be scared if something is going to happen.
Importance of this doing by yourself or by your staff is that actually in 10 years back when I purchased it, my radiologist here used to give RD in all cases, but there was a Victor hemorrhage. So when the patient went, I referred the patient to some higher centers, and when the patient came back, he was arguing me that is not an RD and you have sent me to the higher center, I have a mental stress. Then I thought I should do it myself, and I purchased the B scan 10 years back.
B scan, I do it myself in all cases, except in biometry. My optometrist, there is an instruction that you routinely just do B scan and inform me or send the picture export to me through networking if you find something wrong or there is some suspicious lesion.
So one more indication I would like to add when you want to do it yourself is on children with retinoblastoma. So that is very important. And in cases with retinoblastoma, mandatorily both eyes have to be scanned. Even if the other eye posterior pole you can't see anything clinically, still an ultrasound has to be done even in that eye to look for any peripheral small tumor lesions. Because at that point you are not sedating the child, just an OPD visit.
And you mean to say the other eye should also be examined in all cases? Yes, exactly. This is very important because just to show the patient also, patient's attendants or guardians, the difference between the anatomical structure of the two eyeballs. So this is very important. We must do the other eye also.
Satyajit sir is raising hand.
I have a question. I had a patient recently who had a dense corneal opacity and a dense cataract, and we were not able to find out his IUL power. So at the end of the day, after all the biometries failed, I asked my optometrist to do a B scan and tell me the axial length, and then we did our calculation. I want to ask the panel whether I did the right thing or I could have done something else.
Why you didn't ask Pooja at that time?
Sir,
But it is difficult to get axial length by B scan. Accurate axial length by B scan, it is difficult to get.
Almost 100% wrong होता है उसमें.
Yes.
We
100%
had
wrong
an
है.
The question of Dr. Satyajit Sinha is what to do in such a
नहीं
situation.
सर, नहीं सर, देखिए इमरजेंसी में किया जा सकता है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं. जब हम पीजी थे तो मेरे एक कलीग का यही थीसिस था कि IOL पावर कैलकुलेशन विथ ए स्कैन एंड अल्ट्रासाउंड बी स्कैन, और कंपैरेटिव स्टडी किया. रिजल्ट क्या हुआ हमको नहीं पता है, लेकिन ये स्टडी
100%
और
Better to go for an
मतलब
average
मजबूरी में जब कुछ नहीं आ रहा है स्कैन से, तो बी स्कैन से कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, कर सकते हैं. ग्रॉसली तो पता चल ही जाएगा.
डॉक्टर तिवारी, अगर 1 मिलीमीटर का डिफरेंस,
हाँ, अदर आई
का तो ठीक है, अदर आई का तो ठीक है, लेकिन अगर 1 मिलीमीटर डिफरेंस हो गया बी स्कैन में, तो इट विल रिफ्लेक्ट 4 diopter of difference.
No, in those cases,
I agree with
the other eye will give some opinion.
I agree with Satyajit. When we have no choice, I also do the B scan. As far as Dr. Deepak, you are saying 1 diopter difference हो गया. जब उसकी कॉर्निया थी बेकार हो रही है, जब उसकी आंख में तब वैसे ही उसका विजन कितना आना था अप्रोक्सीमेट आगे, तो हमें अप्रोक्सीमेट लेने के लिए दिस इज ओनली ऑप्शन we have no other option.
That way you can know at least कि the power should be 14 or 24. इतना डिफरेंस के बीच का ठीक है.
मिस्टेक नहीं करेंगे हम लोग. I used to do it many times. At least we are not going to make a drastic mistake.
Yes.
We will be average. So always you can do B scan. And my optometrist is so expert. He almost be comparing many case time to calibrate our A scan. That many times he calculate there is not much difference. So you can do. Satyaj, you can take the help of Pooja. She will have more accurate excellence than your optometrist.
Thank you.
एक average 22-23 का लेंस डाल दो इन केसेस में. That's all.
मेरा सर,
As we used to do in the PG time.
Exactly.
मेरे मेडिकल कॉलेज में सर,
I tell you one thing.
Dr. Tiwari, can you further elaborate the difference between hemorrhage, steroid halitosis, and one more entity, syncytial scintillans? How to differentiate? One point is that there is a clear area behind in this case of steroid halitosis, and what are other points?
सर यही सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट एरिया, मतलब स्टेरॉइड हाइलोसिस में रेटिना और जहां से इकोज शुरू होता है उसके बीच में डेफिनेट क्लियर कट स्पेस मिलता है. ये एकदम डेफिनेट साइन है. ये मिल गया तो मान लेना है कि स्टेरॉइड हाइलोसिस. उसके बाद स्टेरॉइड हाइलोसिस में थोड़ा होता है कि जो इकोज हैं, जो इकोज डॉट इकोज हम लोग देख रहे हैं, वो थोड़ा यूनिफॉर्मली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड रहता है, हर जगह एक ही जैसा इको मिलेगा. विट्रियस हैमरेज में सर होता है कि कहीं डेंस हैमरेज है तो ज्यादा डेंस इको मिलेगा, या क्लम्प जैसा इको मिलेगा, क्लॉट जैसा. कहीं कम हैमरेज है तो वहां कम इको मिलेगा, तो डिफरेंशियल इको मिलता है. लेकिन स्टेरॉइड हाइलोसिस में यूनिफॉर्मली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड हाइपर रिफ्लेक्टिव डॉट इकोज, और देयर इज अ डेफिनेट क्लियर कट स्पेस बिटवीन रेटिना एंड द इको इज.
Especially in hemorrhages in lower
Can
down.
we differentiate syncytial scintillans with the steroid halicus by B scan?
इसको बी स्कैन पर डिफरेंशिएट करना थोड़ा मुश्किल है.
नहीं, सिंथेसिस में उतना नहीं मिलेगा, रेगुलर स्पेसिंग पे नहीं मिलता है.
बड़ा डिफरेंट मतलब
जी.
अरे आप सिंथेसिस में देखिएगा ना सर, रेगुलर स्पेसिंग नहीं, स्पार्स कहीं मिलेगा कहीं नहीं मिलेगा, इस तरह से मिलता है. और ये बी और उसमें स्टेरॉइड तो एकदम एक बार देख लेने के बाद कभी मिस ही नहीं करेगा.
सबसे इजी वही लगता है. अच्छा, एक जनरल क्वेश्चन कि कैन वी डू ऑल द बी स्कैन विथ लीड क्लोज्ड?
Yes, definitely.
So we routinely do with this lead closed and without any coupling gel. उससे भी बहुत डिफरेंस नहीं होता है. कपलिंग जेल आप डाल सकते हैं, नहीं भी डाल सकते हैं, इस पे कोई कमेंट?
कपलिंग जेल तो डालते हैं सर हम लोग हमेशा.
Gel even if
आर्टिफैक्ट आएगा सर, नहीं जेल डालेंगे तो जेल डालना
ज्यादा आएगा.
ज्यादा रहेगा
और ज्यादा आएगा।
and you get good resolution if you put gel.
Yes, that difference is there.
Yes.
सर जब भी प्रोब
lid-
और कांटेक्ट सरफेस के बीच में अगर कहीं भी एयर होगा तो उतना दूर आपका इको मास्क हो जाएगा। अगर कपलिंग जेल है तो एयर नहीं आएगा बीच में, तो आपका स्कैन नीट एंड क्लीन होगा। कपलिंग जेल नहीं होगा, जहां भी कांटेक्ट सरफेस और प्रोब के बीच में गैप होगा तो वो आपको एरिया हेजी आएगा, आर्टिफैक्ट आएगा।
लिड क्लोज से सर कॉर्निया भी आ जाता है। सो इफ अगर जैसे ये वाला था एक्सेल लेंथ को एस्टिमेट करना है, उसमें फिर लिड क्लोज में कॉर्नियल इंटरफेस आ जाएगा। डायरेक्टली कॉर्निया पे रखेंगे तो लेंस से ही ऑलमोस्ट स्टार्ट होता है उसका इको आना।
And especially closed lid will make a difference if the lid is grossly, say, fibrosed, or there is concretions on other, say, defects. In those cases, it may have some effect on the ecosystem.
Dr. Tiwari, one question from you. How to clean the probe of the B scan?
सर हम लोग तो नॉर्मली स्पिरिट से ही क्लीन करते हैं। जब भी किया उसके बाद स्पिरिट से, मतलब कॉटन में स्पिरिट डिप करके, और पहले तो जैसे किया तो कपलिंग जेल को बढ़िया से क्लीन कर देना है सर। उसको क्लीन कर देना है, ड्राई कॉटन से नहीं करना है, वेट कॉटन से करना है सर। वेट कॉटन से क्लीन करेंगे और उसके बाद जब वो थोड़ा सा, मतलब उसको एकदम ही स्लाइस करना है, जैसे हम लोग बोलते हैं कि कोई इमीडिएट पोस्ट ऑप रहता है या ओपन ग्लोब, तो यूएसजीबी स्कैन जेंटल एंड स्टेराइल, माने उसका मतलब है कि धीरे से करना है, एकदम जेंटली, और स्टेराइल प्रोब होना चाहिए। तो स्टेराइल प्रोब हम लोग को अरविंद में तो यही सिखा गया कि सर कॉटन सोक्ड इन स्पिरिट एंड वी शुड जेंटली एंड थॉरोली क्लीन ऑल द कॉन्टेक्ट एरिया एंड एडजॉइनिंग एरिया ऑफ द प्रोब, और उसको हम लोग मान लेते थे कि ये स्टेराइल है सर।
लेकिन उसमें भी प्रॉब्लम है कि ए स्कैन और बी स्कैन दोनों प्रोब में अगर रेगुलर आफ्टर एवरी केस अगर स्पिरिट से आप क्लीन कर रहे हैं तो धीरे धीरे वो सरफेस जो है उसका प्रोब का रफ हो जाता है।
नहीं, एवरी केस के बाद नहीं करना है सर। बोले ना कि लिखते हैं कि जेंटल एंड स्टेराइल, तो जिस केस में स्टेराइल चाहिए उसमें करना है। सब में करेंगे स्पिरिट से तो पूरा वो खराब हो जाएगा।
I am not worried about the sterility. I am not worried about. I am worried about my probe. So what is the ideal thing? What is the ideal thing from which we should clean it? Is it alcohol?
Yes sir, 100% alcohol.
Alcohol.
What recommended for even optical surfaces also.
Yeah, we are doing it. We are doing it by alcohol.
Actually,
Yeah, that is
the last
the
2 years after the COVID episode.
We have lot of sugar factories here. We have lot of sugar factories all around ours. We get there for 100% alcohol and we clean up with the 100% alcohol.
Better you use isopropyl alcohol. This will give less staining.
How is it available easily?
No, it is available.
That is recommended for optical surfaces as well, sir.
Yes.
Optical surface.
मैम
लेकिन हर केस में नहीं तो वो प्रोब। हाँ मैम यस
मैम को बहुत संभाल के रखना है। We have burned our fingers because especially when optometrists are doing B scan, वो लोग इधर उधर ऐसे ही टेबल पे they just keep it and if it slips
और गिर के टूट जा।
piezoelectric crystal is so delicate that the whole machine is then gone. तो उसका जो सॉकेट है उसमें वापस एकदम हर हाल
में अच्छे से हैंग करके रखना है। यस, 1-2 केसेस हर क्लिनिक में जहां डिस्टर्ब हुआ है।
Dr. Pooja, how you clean it?
Sir, I also use spirit, but not after every case.
Okay.
So, wet wipe after each case, ma'am. Like उसको wipe कर, the gel is wiped and then left. उतना ही।
To be honest, I also sometimes even use the tissue paper. जो हम लोग का
एक एल्कोहल कंटेनिंग वेट वाइप भी आता है स्लाइज, वो हम मंगवाते हैं ऑनलाइन, नाम नहीं ध्यान है। वो हम क्लीन करते हैं अपना रेटकैम का सामने वाला लेंस, वो भी एक तरह का अल्ट्रासाउंड प्रोब जैसा है सर। तो वो हमको रेटकैम वालों ने ही बताया था, मुझे ध्यान नहीं, मेरा वो टेक्नीशियन लोग ऑनलाइन ऑर्डर करता है, तो उसमें होता है कि वो स्टेराइल पैक है, स्प्लाइस पैक है, और वो एल्कोहल सोक्ड वेट वाइप है, तो वो 1.5-2 रुपए का एक पड़ता है। तो जब भी रेटकैम यूज करते हैं तो उसको फाड़ के और क्लीन कर लेते हैं उससे। तो
बहुत से लेबोरेटरी में वो इंजेक्शन देने के इसमें भी यूज होता है।
जी
वो यूज होता है, वो कॉमन चीज है। लेकिन आप एवरी केस के बाद यूज करेंगे तो वो सरफेस खराब हो जाएगी। ये तो
जी
एक्चुअली जब सैनिटाइजर, अल्कोहलिक सैनिटाइजर जो जेल आता है ना फॉर्म में, उसको टिश्यू पेपर पे करके उसको जेंटली क्लीन करना, दैट इज रूटीनली आई डू। with tissue paper, not with cotton.
Can we do this thing कि wide mouth bottle रखें, अगर जिसमें करना हो तो just alcohol में dip कर लें और हटा लें, dip कर लें हटा लें तो surface rub नहीं होगा, ये कर
Surface
सकते
rub
हैं
नहीं
क्या?
होगा, but सर उसमें एक groove होता है, अगर उससे अल्कोहल
हाँ,
अंदर
उसमें
चला
घुस
गया
गया तब ये भी
हाँ, तो
problem है.
फिर
वो नहीं करना है, वो नहीं करना है.
Right.
खराब होने लगता
हाँ, right, right.
एक one technique
Side
one
है
of
वो
our
आप
professor
rub कर सकते हो, but the tip you don't have to.
Right.
Tip have to be very gently just touch.
Right.
one professor
अच्छा,
used to do, वो लोग स्टाइल ग्लव का फिंगर कट करके और उसको प्रोब के ऊपर लगा देते थे और उससे करते थे, अगर मतलब इन्फेक्टेड जहाँ पे स्टेरिलिटी की जरूरत है, सो नया ग्लव खोल के फिंगर कट करके और उसको उससे करते थे. तो इज दैट अ गुड टेक्निक सर? मैम
स्टेरिलिटी की प्रॉब्लम ज्यादा इससे नहीं आती because we do it over the lids.
Nilesh, these are all जुगाड़ technique.
हाँ वही सर, तो मतलब इज इट अ गुड टेक्निक अगर प्रो बचाना है?
जुगाड़ आप कर सकते हैं.
नहीं उतना उससे ग्लव्स से उतना रबिंग हो जाएगा पहनाने में, क्योंकि वो ग्लव्स का विड्थ जो है कम होगा प्रोब से. अच्छा एक चीज डॉक्टर तिवारी, एवरीबॉडी इज नॉट डूइंग आरओपी स्क्रीनिंग, खास करके इंटीरियर सेगमेंट आई सर्जन्स, तो हाउ दिस बी स्कैन कैन हेल्प इन आरओपी स्क्रीनिंग? इज देयर एनी पॉसिबिलिटी? Dr. Tiwari.
Tiwari sir, ma'am.
I will repeat my question.
Sir, mute है Tiwari sir.
You are mute. You are mute, Dr. Tiwari. हाँ, yes ma'am.
Routinely ultrasound की जरूरत नहीं है. A good peripheral indirect ophthalmoscopy is what is the standard gold standard way of screening.
वो तो है.
अगर media opacity है, especially if it is a stage 4 ROP where you have non-dilating pupils or you have lot of rubeosis, or if you have बहुत ज्यादा pupil छोटा dilate नहीं हो रहा है और अगर आप RD suspect कर रहे हैं तो फिर then ultrasound has to be done.
Dr. Pooja, Dr. Rangta's question is, and for anterior segment surgeons, because anterior segment surgeons cannot see the periphery very well sometimes. So question is, can we diagnose the ROP or suspect the ROP on
at least suspect?
No sir. If it is stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 where the retina is not lifted, you just have the fibrovascular prolif and you have the demarcation line, तो उसमें तो ultrasound कुछ नहीं show करेगा.
That's true.
Only when there is a stage of RD, that is when the ultrasound will be needed, and especially when the pupils will not dilate in those stages.
Agree.
You can't visualize.
Agree with you.
Ma'am, diabetic retinopathy mein, ma'am, what I have seen, like in patients who are having severe NPDR, sometimes when we do along the arcade, we get that focal traction, jahan se the tenting is starting. So is it advisable to do a B scan in all the patient who is having severe NPDR and see if there is a focal TRD developing and refer them, or shall we rely on the clinical findings only?
I think the role of B scan and OCT has to be very properly demarcated in these cases. If there is an overlying vitreous hemorrhage and uske niche you have this tractional detachment and you have RD, then you have to do a B scan, because you want to know what is behind the vitreous echoes, and you want to know whether early surgery is required or not, because if it is just a fresh vitreous hemorrhage, you can still wait. But if it is also a TRD behind the vitreous hemorrhage, then early surgical intervention is very important. So in those cases, B scan is required. But if it is a well seen retina and you just want to know the status of the vitreous over the retina, you can do an OCT. OCT will give a very good view of what kind of traction is there, whether there is vitreomacular traction or not.
But most OCT, they don't go till beyond the arcade. Like if along the arcade, if the traction is developing, that's what I was asking them. At that track.
Beyond the arcade, then you have to see clinically. That is what I would suggest.
Okay. Sir, Rungta sir.
Yeah. So this was a very good talk by Dr. Amresh, and very well discussed. It was very interactive session, and the message clear message is this: for all opaque media cases, this is the best thing, and it should be done preferably by surgeon himself. This is the most handy investigation and most non-invasive, most economic investigation. It should be purchased by every surgeon, every ophthalmic surgeon, and it should be done by a surgeon himself or herself. With this message, I think.
So, any closing remarks from Gupta sir, ma'am, Nagendra sir?
Thank you, everybody. It was really a wonderful session. And as told by Dr. Rungta also, we all anterior segment surgeons on comprehensive ophthalmology practice surgeons, they must have B scan in their clinic. Must. That is a must for us, all of us. Like OCT, B scan, and indirect ophthalmoscopy also we have incorporated in our practice routinely. It's not just a domain of retina surgeon now, because all the comprehensive ophthalmologists, they do it. So we must work up the cases before referring the patient to a retina people. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful session. And I'm really pleasantly surprised, Dr. Rungta, that this was your 41st CME.
Yeah,
wow,
yeah.
Wonderful.
And 14th, where we went.
My God, my God.
Every month we are having, and it's all cooperation of all BOS officials. Whenever we invite, they used to come, and this is very encouraging for us. That is more important.
And the most impressive thing which I found was, Rungta sir, you just chose one topic, and there was very extensive discussion on that.
Yes, that is important.
topic bhar jata hai, then
in BOS also, every time I say keep less talks and give more time to discussion. That is important. जब तक आप हमें मौका नहीं दीजिएगा बोलने का, तो हम बोलेंगे कैसे और पूछेंगे कैसे? हर आदमी को मौका मिलना चाहिए. Still we are going to ask anybody कि Nilesh, just ask कि किन्हीं को कोई और कोई question भी पूछना है.
हाँ, yes sir. उसीलिए सर पूछा था last में sir. Any question from sir Satyajit sir?
What is the status of B-scan registration in Bihar? What is the government's policy?
नहीं, there is no, it's not needed at present. वो कहीं केस हुआ था, उसके बाद ये डिसीजन हुआ कि बी स्कैन से नॉर्मली बी स्कैन से सेक्स डिटरमिनेशन नहीं होता है, इसलिए अभी इस पे कुछ नहीं है. जस्ट अ मिनट एक बार है ना, इस पर व्हाट्सएप पे डिस्कशन हो रहा था. माय सेइंग वाज कि ज्यादा इस पर डिस्कस मत कीजिए, नहीं तो गवर्नमेंट मशीनरी यू नो कि है ना, उनको तो कुछ भी मिलना चाहिए हरास करने के लिए, इसलिए चुपचाप अभी कोई मैंडेटरी नहीं है बी स्कैन के लिए.
Actually in Maharashtra there was a lot of confusion, there were a lot of problems, but it was decided that because we are using 10 megahertz probe, so that is not fit for this sex determination.
But
so ultimately कोई ये नहीं है.
BN is still the case in the High Court, and we have got the stay order. Dr. Namrata has already informed to everyone. This is not that we are safe.
We have not won the case. We have not won the case. लेकिन अभी ऐसा नहीं है कि बस इसको, लेकिन जितना हाईलाइट हम लोग करेंगे तो फिर कोई ना कोई सिविल सर्जन लग जाएगा इसके पीछे.
Will attract attention.
Local body.
At present, it is not registration is not required.
As you have appreciated the efforts of the Shahabad Ophthalmic Society, I told them every time that I never go other than CME where I am not invited, I am not a speaker, I never attend the CME. But this is the only CME where
you are part of this family.
Not a speaker, and I used to join it, and I really enjoy the company of all of them, Nilesh, everybody.
Dr. Sushil, अभी तक हम लोग गाना सुनते थे, वो आरा हिले छपरा हिले, और ऐसा आपने आरा हिला दिया कि धनबाद से काशीपुर तक हिल गया है बिल्कुल.
And Pooja, Dr. Pooja said rightly, this is the best thing. We should have one topic and we should have full discussion about it.
Yes, this is how CME is held. Yes, just one single topic.
Only then we can have full knowledge.
Sir, the webinar helps in that, sir, because यहाँ पे लोग आराम से वो time invest नहीं होता है, वरना physical CME में 2-3 speakers they usually come.
And then we have to say time is short. Question will after.
सिर्फ एक डिस्ट्रैक्शन है कि सत्यजीत जो है कॉफी पे कॉफी पिए जा रहा है और हम लोगों को ललचा रहा है. तब से मैं देख रहा हूँ कि थर्ड कॉफी पी चुका हूँ.
Satyajit should learn a lesson. You should learn a lesson.
But this is a big thing that he's in the background. ये बहुत बड़ी बात है कि नहीं तो डॉक्टर सत्यजीत बैकग्राउंड में रहे, ये भी हम लोग नहीं चाहते हैं.
Never remains in background.
ये तो दिखाने के लिए सर, दिखाने के लिए.
नहीं है ना भाई, कभी तो है.
I would like to take this opportunity to
Yes.
invite everybody from the Bihar Ophthalmic Society and Oculoplastic Association of India's midterm conference on Sunday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. A very cordial welcome to everybody on Sunday. Please do join us.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Any more question? Any more question from anybody? Manoj ji.
No more questions now, Deepak Kumar.
Sir.
Vote of thanks.
Last, so one, if somebody from Ajanta, if they want to,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
This is Prabhat Swayanta Pharma, sir. And so many thanks. I am also learning a lot in association with you all. Sir, Roonghta sir was counting their event. This is 14th CM webinar held by the Shahabad Ophthalmic Society. Out of 14th, 11th, in 11th webinar, in 11 webinar, I was there present. So many thanks Shahabad Society to giving us an opportunity to being such a meaningful association with you all. Sir, so many thanks. Sir, recently we launched a very good product, Netalo, Netarsutil, which is widely available now in entire Bihar and Jharkhand. So please use it, sir. So many thanks. Thank you for Amresh sir and panelists and all viewers. So many thanks for giving us chance. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for all the support throughout our web events. And our next webinar will be in mid-August on a Thursday. The topic is still going to be decided, so we will put
It's
all the
almost
details in
decided.
WhatsApp. Yes,
The
sir.
topic of next webinar is almost decided. It will be on VEP by Dr. Kashyap and his family.
Okay, sir. So,
And after that, in September, there is a talk by most probably by Dr. Saurabh Sinha, how to de-stress the ophthalmologists. To
Okay.
de-stress.
Thank you, sir. So, Deepak sir, for vote of thanks.
Sure. Thank you. हम जानते हैं को वोट ऑफ थैंक्स किस लिए दिया जाता है डॉक्टर रूंगटा के द्वारा कि इससे ये पता चले कि हम लास्ट तक हम टिके हुए हैं. नॉर्मली जहाँ 1-1.5 घंटा होता हम निकल जाया करते थे, लेकिन थैंक यू वेरी मच. So for success for any meeting, there are certain things which are required: good topic, good speaker, good attendance, and after all, above all, good sponsorship also.
Good panelists.
So thanks everybody on behalf of Shahabad Ophthalmical Society for making this 41st CME and 14th web meeting quite successful. In 1989, when we started Shahabad Ophthalmical Society, it was RIENT Club, which was later converted into Shahabad Ophthalmical Society, and it is running very smoothly and strongly. As you can see, every month we are meeting, if not physically, at least on web. The presentation this evening by Dr. Amresh took us to our MS days when we were students and we learned all these things. And I still remember Dr. Kashyap's glaring eyes whenever something is wrong. So I was really benefited this evening by Dr. Amresh, quite lucid and informative session. We have learned too many things this evening. Now, special thanks to our panelists, Dr. Pooja, Dr. S.P. Tiwari, and of course, Abhishek could not make it because of some emergency injury to his daughter. So he could not make it this meeting, but he will come next time. Regarding Pooja, she is a reputed medical retina specialist. Everybody knows all the world. Dr. S.P. Tiwari again, the first class established vitreoretinal surgeon, and he is always especially a person to whom I bank. Whenever I have got any problem, I just call Dr. S.P. Tiwari and he is there ready to help. भेजिए ना सर, हम तुरंत ठीक कर देंगे. And it is there. जब भी भेजा है उसने तुरंत ठीक कर दिया है. So this interactive participation by everybody was so enjoyable by everyone. And of course, the Shahbaz Ophthalmic Society is obliged to my batchmate, my old friend and chairperson of this evening, Dr. B.N. Gupta, who is a real well-wisher of everybody. Ophthalmic Society की क्या बात करेंगे, हर एक का well-wisher है. And whenever he needs our support, we are there to help you also, Dr. Gupta.
Thank you.
इस साल तो नहीं हो, अगली बार. सभी प्रोग्राम कोऑर्डिनेटर्स और डिस्कसेंट्स को तो धन्यवाद, क्योंकि सबने इतना समय दिया, इतना बहुत सी सारी बातें शेयर की, मजा आ गया. एंड स्पेशल थैंक्स टू आवर मॉडरेटर ऑफ टुडे और आवर इटर्नल मॉडरेटर डॉक्टर नीलेश, जिसको कि बचपन से हम देखते देखते हमें ये नहीं मालूम था कि आगे आने वाले दिनों में देश का सबसे अच्छा यंगस्टर हो जाएगा, सबसे अच्छा यंग ऑप्थेल्मोलॉजिस्ट हो जाएगा, ये नहीं मालूम था. बट थैंक यू वेरी मच निखिलेश एंड कांग्रेचुलेशंस एंड बेस्ट विशेस एंड ब्लेसिंग्स.
थैंक यू सर, आशीर्वाद सर बस.
So everybody must totally agree today that we are wiser today with all our B scan. जानते तो सब कुछ थे, लेकिन दिमाग के पीछे में कहीं पर था जो कि आज सामने आ गया. बातचीत करने से और भी चीजें क्लियर हुई, बहुत सारी बातें नहीं जानते थे. And of course, the presence of Dr. Nagendra Prasad, who is a chairman ARC BOS, उनके आने से तो हर चीज सोने पर सुहागा हो ही जाती है. एंड हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि जो हमारी जितने भी मीटिंग्स होंगी उसको अगर ARC की तरफ से किया जाए तो ज्यादा अच्छा हुआ करेगा.
तो परमिशन लेना पड़ेगा सर. बॉस से परमिशन
नहीं, हम बल्कि उल्टा कहें कि या उल्टा कहें कि ये ARC की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होनी चाहिए कि हर मीटिंग को अपना ले लें.
ओके सर.
एक बार हुआ था, उसमें कॉम्प्लिकेशन हो गया. एंड स्पेशल थैंक्स टू डॉक्टर सत्यजीत सिन्हा.
सत्यजीत तो हमारे रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ही हैं ARC और AIOS में, और AIOS की तरफ से भी हम लोगों का कुछ न कुछ होता रहता है. इस बार हम यहाँ पे शाहबाद ऑप्थेल्मिक सोसाइटी में भी कुछ होना चाहिए. आई विल रिक्वेस्ट कुछ प्लान किया जाए डॉक्टर सत्यजीत. And all thanks to Dr. Abhishek Kumar, Dr. Sanjeev Kumar, Dr. H.N. Pandey, Dr. Kumar Amrinder, Dr. Manoj, और अगर किन्हीं का नाम छूट रहा, डॉक्टर कन्हैया, ऑफ कोर्स.
डॉक्टर कन्हैया, यस, कन्हैया वाज देयर, यस.
क्योंकि अगर कन्हैया नहीं होगा तो नीलेश कैसे होता. तो
thanks
to everybody. And of course, before I thank anybody else, I pay tribute to all our corona fighters and corona warriors. And one suggestion to Dr. Satyajit here, कि संडे को जब हमारी मीटिंग होती है तो जितनी भी ऑर्बिचुरीज होंगी वो कोरोना वॉरियर्स की, उसके लिए भी एक छोटा सा 5 मिनट का सेशन होना चाहिए. अगर सबके फोटोग्राफ्स अवेलेबल हो जाएं तो एक छोटा सा 5 मिनट का उनको भी हम अपने ट्रिब्यूट दे सकेंगे तो अच्छा रहेगा. Okay, and I will now extend my special thanks to Ajanta Pharma people. Ajanta Pharma people special, the national head, Gaurav ji, Mr. Pavan ji, and Prabhat, who he has been with us for at least 11 meetings, as he has said. And I know that we will be there for 50th meeting also, या और 100th meeting. जब तक भी ये चलता रहेगा वेबिनार, तब तक प्रभात और अजंता हमारे साथ रहेंगे. I am sure of it. और इसके चूंकि प्रभात ने कहा नहीं तो हम ही बोल देते हैं कि दे आर द मेकर्स ऑफ सॉफ्ट विस्क, ऑप्ट्रुमा एंड नेटालो. नेटालो इज अ वंडरफुल मेडिसिन. हमने यूज किया हुआ है और पाया है कि अच्छा है. आप सभी भी जिन्होंने नहीं यूज किया वो लोग यूज करके देख लीजिएगा. इट इज गुड. हम इसलिए भी बोल दे रहे हैं क्योंकि यूपी में हमको इसी नेटालो पर कुछ बोलना है कुछ दिनों के बाद में. सो नेटालो इज गुड. And these are all providing technical support also. And whenever anybody had any problem in logging in, sharing the screens, Ajanta people are there to help us. So thank you very much for this smooth, flawless, and successful meeting. And thank you everybody.
Deepak, Dr. Deepak,
Anji.
Dr. Deepak,
Yes, PN.
the talk was very interesting, but for the first time I am seeing the vote of thanks is also very elaborate and very interesting. Thank you very much.
अगर भूख लग रही हो
Right, sir.
Good. No, vote of thanks में लोग निकलना शुरू हो जाते हैं.
Thank you very much to everybody, and I hope everybody who is present today will all be attending all our future sessions in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Good